Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you are lucky enough indeed to be doing it to, with or upon. I'm Bushka Blitz, and I am back to show you a little bit more of the low-tier love machine. That is the Leopard, the Little Leopard. This is a tank that was introduced with the German light tree that brought us such luminaries as the RU251 and the SP1C. And it comes at the bottom of a tree that is pretty convoluted and crowded. At Tier 4 you have the looks leading directly to the Leopard, but it branches off the Panzer 2G, which branches off the Panzer 2 and turns into the Panzer 3A and the Panzer 4A, which then turns into the 4D and the DW2 and the Panzer 3 off the Panzer 3A, and it all goes along until you eventually can join back up to the other German medium line, go to the Indian and end up at the Leopard 1. So you can go from Leopard to Leopard, which is a wonderful thing because I know that's what was keeping you guys up at night. The idea that you couldn't go from Leopard to Leopard. Oh, look at Snake Eyes getting wrecked there. Lucky he's got me to carry him with him. Oh, whatever I meant. I really enjoy this tank. It is a fun tank. It is a great tank. And in fact, it's a tank that's pretty interesting because there's only two light tanks at this tier. There's the Leopard and the Crusader. And that's pretty interesting because the Crusader is actually a really good tank and has a lot better DPM than this tank, but is quite a different cup of tea. The Leopard is a big burst machine. Every clip you have has 12 rounds in the clip, and that's an interesting thing because you can see there on screen you only have 4 shells, and that's well and good. That's because every single clip, every single shell in the clip fires 3 times. So you press one button and 3 little bits come out, and each one of those little bits has the potential to do 25 damage. And that means that you can do whopping big amounts of damage in burst, as you can see there. That's brilliant because what this tank really appeals to is a refined sense of gameplay. You can line tanks up and just work them over with really fierce, sudden bursts of burning the heck down damage and then go and hide. It's absolutely lights out quick, and it's fantastic for actually getting shots in and then buggering off, which is something I like to do in the Leopard a lot. Despite the fact that it is a light tank, it does have quite decent camouflage, which is a real surprise actually. Not camouflage, sorry. It's quite decent armor when you angle it up, which is a real surprise and a real bonus. If you angle it, it's a lot like a VK2801, which is obviously the Bewilder Beast, the monster tank at Tier 6, which this tank coincidentally leads to. The ability to do that massive big amount of burst damage, as you can see there on the poor old toaster, is something that brings a lot of people back, and you can see getting bounces there. 95 millimeters of pen is all you've got on this tank, but you don't really need a lot more. You get to the flanks very comfortably in it. It's also got 10 degrees of gun depression. And did I mention that it is a light tank, which means it gets good old light tank camo, which is basically the same camo you get when you're doing 65 kilometers an hour that, you know, most tanks get when they're sitting stock still and have allowed camo to set. It's really agile too. It's very comfortable CODing TDs, getting around to flanks, just putting all kinds of hurt on the red team. It feels very strong in the hands of an experienced player, and it's excellent for running in platoon at Tier 5. In fact, after running this again, and I did run it originally when I ground the Leopard line, I think that I would probably run this above most of my Tier 5 Seal Clubbers just because of the pure joy of going this quick and having the light tank camo. How quick does it go, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because it goes 60 kilometers an hour, but it gets there like a bat out of hell. Its acceleration is absolutely superb. You've got a massive 30.46 hit horsepower per ton, which is huge. You've got a 644 horsepower engine, and you've only got a tank that weighs 20 tons. So you end up with a tank that goes very quickly off the mark and motors around the place. Remember, you've got 12 shells, and each shell has 25 hit points potential damage. So you can clip for 300. And that's why you will often find people running 2 of these things at once. When you run 2 of them at once, you can double tap for 600 hit points. And at tier 5, well, that's a lot of tanks losing an awful lot of their hit point pool. And that's one of the reasons too why when you blitz and get to flanks, the tank is so effective, because obviously if you are shooting the sides of tanks, more shots are going to go in and your DPM is going to be absolutely maximized. And I really like that about this tank. Little bit of an interesting side note, and this is something that happens with a lot of autoloaders. If you're out and about and you don't have a huge amount of credits and you're in a situation where a game is life and death, give a whole lot of thought before you start firing off APCR, because the economy of scale is quite different when when you fire 1 shell and it costs you 5,000 credits, that's great. But the economy of scale is such that when you fire a lot of shells and they are premium shells and they cost you credits, I did a little test here. I fired nothing but APCR in this game, and I came out minus 88,000 credits, despite the fact that I got a high caliber award, did spotting, topped out and everything. So yeah, be very careful about firing APCR. And to be honest, even though the pen on the AP isn't so good, it doesn't make much difference, because a lot of tanks at your tier have horrible armor profiles anyway, and your ability with this kind of mobility to get around and get to flanks just negates it. It's very easy to get shots where you don't have to use APCR in this tank. And that's good, because obviously a lot of people, when they're grinding up this tree, are trying to save money to buy new tanks, and the last thing you want to be doing is having to fire off a whole heap of premo in situations and absolutely pay through the nose for it. There are other guns, there are other options, but none of them, to my mind, are anywhere near as effective as the 3cm Mark 103 gun that you can see me running here. In terms of traverse, if you are running all your kit and caboodle on the tank, you're going to be able to traverse at 47 degrees on your turret, and here comes the lovely number, 81.24 degrees on your tracks. That's the real reason that I adore this tank. You can go around stuff like it's absolutely sitting still. You can power slide all over the joint. You've got huge horsepower per ton. You've got amazing traverse. You've got brilliant burst. You also have 10 degrees of gun depression, which is phenomenal. And the thing that all really experienced players love is that it's a light tank. So you can abuse light tank camouflage. And when you understand spotting range and you understand all those kind of things and how the camo mechanic works, then you can make hay with this little baby. Now, that VK28.0 there is basically one of my favourite, if not favourite, tanks in the game. It's easily my highest win rate tank, and it's a tank that I can't get enough of. But for all that, this is just a barrel of laughs. And it comes at a tier where people are generally learning to play the game and are not so experienced, and they don't understand the mechanics the way people do as they go up through tier 8 and tier 9 and tier 10. And that allows you to exploit the light tank camouflage and the burst damage and really play a peekaboom style. Now, for those of you who are new to the game and don't know what I'm on about, peekaboom is really simple. Peekaboom is where you duck out when you have shells in the clip, and when you don't, you stay hidden and reload. And that allows you to take no damage until you have the ability to deal damage, or don't risk taking damage till you have the ability to deal damage. And that's really important, because this tank cannot tank serious amounts of damage. It's super mobile though, and with that huge torque that the engine gives you from having only a 20-ton weight, and here I'm getting a little bit arsey telling them that they're having a serious camp because their entire team was in the railroad tracks. You can do things that other tanks can't, and I'm going to show you one of those things right here, which is climb hills really quickly and go up and down them like they're a piece of flat roadway. And I'm going to get leverage up here, go all the way up the top, and get shots down into the cap circle of the Campers Deluxe area, and just basically have my way with them. And you can see I can still pull back on the hill and go up and down and I am on like a really steep incline. You can hear the little engine, the guts on it, just pounding through. It's a great tank if you want to do the business. I really enjoyed it, and I actually found myself driving this very aggressively. Even in Tier 6 games, it more than held its own. And I think one of the reasons for that is because, you know, it's super quick and it's got light tank camo. And those two things on their own mean that you can control the engagement a lot easier than you can if you are in a tank of any other kind. The ability to control when you're seen and when you're not seen, and to move around the battlefield faster than everyone else, it can't be overstated. I mean, you can see there, I've spotted those guys coming up the top and done so without being seen. And that's light tank camo. And I'm here so quickly, despite the fact that I was down the bottom and I mucked around. And I'm going to absolutely put myself in harm's way here because I just enjoy driving it really aggressively. And look at it, the 81 degrees of traverse. That is just brutally cool. I'm going to go right past all of them like they're standing still, which indeed they are. Come right back around and keep pushing and being aggressive. That traverse, did you see that duck and weave? I mean, that is phenomenal stuff. And that's just what the Leopard one brings to the game. Once you get used to it, once you are capable of driving and understanding mechanics of the game really comfortably, this is the kind of tank that will allow you to dominate tiers. And it's kind of a misnomer that light tanks are light. Their impact on the game is tremendous. Quite often in a light tank, you can just get to places without risk. And that's not the case in heavies and TDs and to a large extent mediums. You may be able to push up like that KV2, but you're also going to be visible from the flanks, and you may be able to move around the place and get caps and all that, but a light tank can be everywhere so quickly without being seen that it allows you to control the map, especially in modes like Supremacy. And this is one of the things I love doing in lights and mediums, is running Supremacy, because it's just an innate advantage for anyone that can roll well in a mobile tank. You can cap a lot quicker and a lot easier and a lot more effectively when you are driving a Leopard than you can in a KV2. I mean, you can see the speed that KV2 is moving at. He's only, 50 metres, 100 metres from me, and he cannot shoot me. He's not going to be able to stop me capping. And as I cap, I win. I mean, why the hell wouldn't you be driving a light or a medium? And at Tier 5, I know the Crusader has been a Seal Clubbers Deluxe tank for quite some time, but I much prefer the Leo. Give me mobility, give me burst and pace every time. I just much prefer it. It's where I live, it's what I love doing. I mean, that KV2's moved past. I'm going to go up here, get rid of the Leopard, duck really hard in, pull back, get rid of the VK2801. I'm going to keep him between me and that KV2. So we only take one of the tracks. And then I'm going to drive forward on the KV2 and get right stuck into him again. I mean, there's going to be an SU-85 here. I mean, watch this. I'm stopping him from capping. I've got an angry SU-85 there who wants to hit me. I've ammo racked the KV2, and I'm just going to sit here until we get the win, and then I'll pop out and let him get the shot, because I am nothing if not a fair and equitable Leopard driver. There you go. There's the win. Have a shot. That's the kind of tank I enjoy driving. I hope you like that, guys. I'm Bushka on Blitz. As always, make sure you like the video, sub to the channel, listen to the podcast. I'm going to be interviewing Eskimo, who is a Leopard driver, a real deal Leopard driver. The big ones, not the little Leopard, the big Leopard one. An Aussie bloke who drove those. I'm going to do that tomorrow, and I'll hopefully post that tomorrow as well. I'm going to be doing a podcast with Alex from Wargaming very soon, where we also get along one of the map designers, and I'm going to be putting the questions to him. So if you've got any questions about the maps and how they design them and what goes on in the design of the game itself, send them through to bushkawonking@gmail. Actually, no, I tell a lie. Don't send them to me on the email. Simply hit me up on Twitter @Bushka on Blitz with the hashtag Bushka. Because when I do these podcasts, I search on the hashtag Bushka, and if anyone is sending me questions, that's where I'm going to see them. Until next time, boys and girls, look after your families and stay safe on the battlefield.